Daily Tech News Show is made possible by you listening right now. Thanks to all of you, including Justin Zellers, Pepper Geesey, Carmine Bailey, and brand new patrons Chris, John, and Marcus.
Yay! Welcome.
Yeah, good to have y'all. On this episode of DTNS, NotebookLM wants you to join its podcast, and now you can. Waymo certified for safe driving around emergencies, and Patrick Norton has bargain audio gear you've never heard of, but you're going to be glad that he's going to tell you about it. This is the Daily Tech News for December, Friday the 13th, 2024. In Los Angeles, I'm Tom Merritt.
From Studio Animal House, I am Sarah Lane.
At the edge of the 314, I'm Patrick Norton.
And I'm the show's producer, without a silk robe, Roger Chang.
Oh, we're going to get you a silk robe for Christmas. Don't you worry. That is also a complete lie.
Everyone will know about it.
That is a complete lie. I will not be getting Roger it.
Listen,
get you.
There's nothing wrong with anyone having a silk robe.
I already got you your own sticker, Roger. Okay.
He's not in a silk robe in the sticker either, Tom.
No,
promises were made, and
we'll
Sarah
need a new sticker pack next quarter.
Sarah and I are going to keep you to them.
Yes. Yeah, all three of us in silk robes.
He'll wear a silk robe. That's what's
in the
happening.
Next sticker pack. All right, let's start with the quick hits.
Our first story was submitted by R.W. Nash in our subreddit. Avram Pilch at Tom's Hardware was able to get Microsoft Recall to capture a credit card number when he entered it into Notepad, and then a social security number when he entered it into an HTML page that he created. It didn't capture credit card numbers in payment pages for two actual online stores, however.
So yeah, mileage may vary, but not perfect. Feels like the Game Awards have finally taken their place as the biggest night in video games. I was listening to the BBC World Service top of the hour news briefing, and it was in there. Like it's worldwide news now. Astrobot took the top prize, Game of the Year. It also won Best Family Game, Best Director, and Best Action Adventure. Alongside the award winners, though, one of the big things people watch for is all the big announcements and game trailers. We got Naughty Dog announcing a new game that isn't a remaster called Intergalactic: The Heretic Prophet. CD Projekt Red released a cinematic trailer for Witcher 4, and From Software showed a trailer for Elden Ring Night Rain. That one. That's the one they did.
A lot of G's, a lot of R's in that one. CW Baston also submitted the story. And by the way, thank you to everybody who submits stories to us. We really appreciate that. This one, buy now, pay later company Klarna told Bloomberg Television that headcount at the company has fallen 22% since the company started implementing AI a year ago. Klarna says it's increasing the pace at which the salaries of our employees increases. So Klarna is basically saying, yeah, we're not hiring. We're just paying people who work here more. About a year ago, Klarna said it uses AI to power its AI assistant and is capable of replicating 700 full-time human agents. The first month the AI assistant went live, it handled over 2 million conversations, or about 2 out of 3 customer service chats for the company overall.
That's one to watch. That is definitely a situation to keep an eye on. The EU is after another organization that breached its data protection rules. The organization, the European Union. Apparently, the European Data Protection Supervisor found that an ad campaign run by the European Commission on X in 2023 violated data protection laws because it micro-targeted people based on political keywords, which could be used to reveal their political stance, which is against the rules.
OpenAI had a 3-hour outage on Thursday. We don't always consider outages to be news for our show, but what is interesting about this one is that unlike many other companies, OpenAI posted details on what caused the outage, adding it occurred after it deployed a telemetry service to collect Kubernetes metrics, or containers that run software in isolation. There are more details from OpenAI if you want to have them.
All right, so NotebookLM has become something of a byword for stiff podcasting. But today we're going to take a deep dive, blah, 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 blah. You know the jokes, right?
Yeah.
However, the new announcement is that you will soon be able to talk to the NotebookLM voices during their quote unquote show. If you need a refresher, NotebookLM is a service that can take your notes and summarize them. It can then do an audio overview of those notes that sounds like two podcast hosts talking about your notes. And now, if you get access to this feature, you'll be able to tap an interactive mode button to start listening to the audio overview. And then during that, you can tap on a join button. When you tap the join button, one of the AI hosts will call on you, and then you can ask a question or make a comment, and the host will respond with a personalized answer, then carry on with the rest of the audio summary. I said this to Patrick earlier, and he exploded.
I did not explode. I mean, yeah. Okay,
I mean, you're still with us, so yeah.
Yeah, he reconstituted quickly, but yeah.
Thankfully, no. It's funny because I was in a not entirely funny conversation with a friend of mine. Was like, oh, well, AI can do podcasts now. So
yeah,
that's one less career for you. Should have gotten that welding certificate, and it was
yeah.
Well, on one hand, I really should have gotten the welding certificate, just because I like to weld and I should be better at it.
No reason you
You
shouldn't.
seem like you would be a good welder.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But the flip side, right, is I have any of a number of exciting and unexciting issues with AI. One of which is, again, not to beat a dead horse with a dead horse, but, Google summaries of results not only push the results on my Google searches down farther, they are often demonstrably wrong and inaccurate. Sometimes they're dead on, right? But it's also, this is a fascinating feature. I'm very, very curious how it behaves over time. I've been dealing a lot with AI at work, and it's been hysterical to watch how some results aren't reproducible with the same prompts, and other things like the quality of writing that's generated by an AI system often decays over time as the service gets used by a lot of people. And I'm very, on one hand, this stuff's amazing, like the video and the audio generation, the translation apps for audio that make a friend of mine's voice. I mean, imagine if you're hearing Tom talk in Finnish and it's Finnish, but it sounds like Tom.
Mm-hmm.
And that's essentially what AI is doing, except it's doing with, languages that are slightly less complicated than Finnish, right? But I'm curious. I'm curious, because everything it keeps coming back to is it's great to have AI do this, and it can really speed up your process. Just make sure to check everything it did before it goes out to whoever. So,
of course, yeah. I mean, hallucinations all over the place. One of the things I like about this and NotebookLM, as a podcast product, not something that I use. No. I do enough podcasts of my own. This is not really something that I feel like I need, but every so often, I was thinking about a use case for this. Every so often, someone will say to me, well, Sarah, you've been in the game for a long time. Would you be interested in, helping other people kind of find their podcast voice, find their media voice. And that's a job that lots of people have. And, I try to do it when I can, but more or less of the time I'm just too busy and I can't really do it. This sort of thing seems like it could be, I mean, not the end all be all of like, oh, now you're just, the best person who's going to be, booked on all of the cable news networks, later tonight. But it could be a good way to kind of practice. I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I would like to do this, but I don't really know if I'm ready. I don't really know if I've, got the chops. And this would be, a little sandbox.
I also think it's worth pointing out that we lose sight of what this is actually for, because it sounds like a podcast and so podcasty.
Right.
Is that it actually is quite good at summarizing notes. And the idea of having it be a conversation is that helps you retain it better. So I'm wondering if there's anybody out there that's like, oh, this is great. When I'm having it summarize my quarterly reports, I've always wanted to be able to stop them and say, hold on, can you tell me more about, the P&L for the automotive division? And it's, able to on the fly create an answer for that. And I think that is something useful, not very thrilling, but useful that people might be able to take advantage of.
Absolutely.
No, it's and the mere fact, I mean, looking at ChatGPT, Copilot, Claude, and some of the other ones I've worked with, all of this stuff is still fascinating. Like the fact that I can ask an app to create an index for something and I get it in 30 seconds, is a little mind blowing. Or if I ask it to summarize this, the contents of this report in a series of graphs, that's still mind blowing to me because it still takes me approximately 3 days to put together graphs. It's just always, I also, I always laugh because I actually like reading things and I read faster than most people. So, when I need instructions for something or if I'm trying to find information, I'm also the one who's always like, why do you have all the information in a 9-minute video when I can skim the text in 30 seconds? So I will admit to inherent biases.
We are old men yelling at clouds, but it's a thing I share with you.
Well,
yeah.
It's I mean, it's fascinating.
In this case, Google Cloud.
I will probably load this up just so I can have it. Well, I have, I know people who actually have been playing around with long, like when I commute, I talk to the AI in my car, and part of me is like, that's so cool, and part of me is like, what's going on there? Is this like Teddy Ruxpin for adults? I'm your real friend.
I mean,
Sarah,
I think some people are, they like that idea. Right. Other folks are like, what's 2 + 2? Ha ha, you said 5. That kind of like, that's me. I'm always just like, the AI isn't ready for me yet. You keep getting things wrong.
Sure,
well, speaking of AI,
it knows you already.
Right. Speaking of AI, according to an independent review from German tech inspection company TÜV Süd of Waymo's first responder protocols, the company's driverless vehicles can indeed, so says the independent review, detect emergency vehicles, also know how to respond to hand signals from a traffic cop. Let's say you're, in an intersection and the lights are out and a traffic cop is doing its thing, and also be disabled manually when something goes wrong. The test was part of the best practices set out in the Society of Automotive Engineers. TÜV Süd came away with saying that Waymo's first responder program meets our industry standards. Now, Patrick, I know that you're actually aware of TÜV Süd. This is something that I have only heard of today, but I'm feeling cautiously optimistic because I'm such a Waymo fan.
One, Waymo fanning is really funny. Two, so TÜV Süd is essentially the European equivalent of Underwriters Laboratory, which most of our American listeners are pretty familiar with. They're a respected third party that verifies that your extension cords don't blow people up, or that your whatever works the way it's supposed to.
Okay, so this is not Waymo. Yeah, they're in Waymo's pocket and just said whatever Waymo wanted them to say.
It would seem highly unlikely that they are. I'm also, I will say, a little disappointed because when Sarah started reading this in pre-show, I was like, oh, Waymo's going to be like driving ambulances, and everybody's like, no, they're just not.
No. I mean, hey, never say never, but that is not the story today. The story today. Okay, so here's a funny thing. So earlier today, and I've talked on the show ad nauseum about how much I love Waymo, just because I live in a part of LA where they're everywhere. They're actually really, really convenient. So I hang out in Waymos quite often, and the novelty of like no one's driving has sort of worn off on me. I'm like, it's great. I love it. I just sit in the back of a car and it drives me somewhere that I tell it to go. Anyway, I had to go kind of across town for something. I was driving myself, and when I was on my way back, I was right behind a Waymo, which I'm always very interested in. Like, how do they brake? Sometimes when the light turns green, I'm like, you're going kind of fast, Waymo. Like, I'm fascinated by the whole thing. Anyway, there was there was some situation where there were fire trucks and an ambulance that like came in front of us, like they're coming from the other direction, had to do like a real fast, like go into our lane. And at that point, as a human driver, you are always supposed to get,
pull to the side,
side, or at least stop, stay out of the way, don't go through, don't get involved kind of thing. And the Waymo at first was like, started turning left where I was like, oh no, oh, that's bad. And then like immediately was like, nope, turning right, and went over to the side just like a person. And I was like, good work, Waymo.
Good job, little Waymo.
Yeah,
but you saw this in action. Like, this is what it was being certified for, is that exact behavior. Yeah.
Right, because it was a little precarious. Like, again, I was a couple cars back, so it wasn't like I was about to run into a fire truck, but I was like, oh yeah, we all have to stop, let them do their thing, whatever's going on here. And yeah, it's fascinating to watch the autonomous car be like, yep, nope, never mind. I'm not going left. I'm going right, because that's what I'm supposed to do.
And also,
which I think that Tuve sued. That was the whole idea. Is we're starting to feel confident that these autonomous vehicle technologies, and this is not just Waymo, because there are a lot of others in the works as well. That you're going to do the thing that we expect and want you to do. In a situation like that where you might be thrown for a loop otherwise.
Yeah, and being able to identify hand motions, from a traffic cop, with the lights down or there's an accident or something, that's some more complicated stuff for vision sensors to be able to interpret. So and important if you want it to be able to safely move around and do stuff. So this is good news. If you would like to tell me why I'm wrong and it's horrible news, you can do that in our Discord. Just join it right now. Or perhaps you'd like to join in and say, this is great news. Whatever you want to say, join our Discord. You can do that by linking a Patreon account at patreon.com/DTNS.
Well, this holiday season, you might be thinking about audio gear for yourself or someone else, but it can be kind of confusing. Brand names, unfamiliar brands that you don't really know, what's right for you. Places like Amazon and eBay, just a couple of places where you can buy this sort of stuff. But Patrick, you say some of these lesser known brands sometimes offer substantial quality over some of the more established companies.
I am delighted to say that I have heard $100,000 speakers that sounded like crap, and I have heard $300 speakers that sounded amazing. Mm-hmm. And just because a brand is well known doesn't mean it's great. And I will also say there are a lot of fly-by-night brands out there, and I understand people being worried about getting skunked on a deal. But there's a lot of smaller companies you may never have heard of, or products from larger companies you may not know existed, that are pretty fantastic in terms of the performance you get for the money. A company that a lot of people are hearing about in the last year, still a lot of people don't know about, is Waymo. And they do a bunch of products built around streaming audio, the Waymo Amp, the Amp Pro. These are actual and I will say part of the reason I'm thinking about the Waymo Amp is because Sonos has been the Sonos app has been driving my family crazy a lot lately. But the Waymo Amp essentially gives you an amplifier, a subwoofer output, a volume knob, and you stream your audio to it, and it powers whatever speakers you want to connect it to. It's not going to power the most power hungry, desperate speakers, but for the vast majority of speakers out there, it does a great job. People have known me for a while, have probably heard me mention ELAC and the Debut series. When they first came out, the original Andrea Jones design Debut was a game changer, a super bargain audio deal, both for stereo and for surround sound listening. The Debut 3.0 just came out, and it is really impressive, both for stereo and home theater use. It's like $350 for the 5.25-inch version, $450 for the 6.25-inch bookshelf version. I would definitely want to sub with the 5.25-inch version, but the truth is, for most listening, the speakers alone will be great, and I pair a sub with everything. And yes, I know Andrea Jones is no longer with ELAC, but that doesn't mean they can't design a killer speaker. JM20 headphone dongle, the JCal or JMcAlley JM20 headphone dongle. Apple's Lightning and USB-C headphone dongles are like one of the greatest bargains in audio. They're like $9. They can drive the vast majority of headphones. The audio is pretty flawless. If you feel like having an Alibaba experience, or if you hate Apple, or if you want a little more power, the Cali's JM20 headphone dongle is really worth looking at. It's $24. Delivers close to twice the power into 300 ohm headphones, and maybe 60% more power into a 32 ohm headphone, which you don't need for a easy to drive set of headphones, but it's there if you want it. And they measure shockingly good. Moondrop makes in-ear monitors or earbuds. The Chew 2 earbuds with a Harman Audio Curve, really close match to the Harman Audio Curve, cost about $19. The Quarks, which Moondrop sells for about $15, are Wirecutter's pick for the best wired earbud under $50. Another earbud company you may not know of is Linsole, and one of their really popular ones right now is the 7 Hertz times Critical 02. Critical's a guy that measures earbuds. He's a big internet, I guess, influencer, I'd call him. Again, near flawless Harman Curve audio for $24. I like a little less bass than the Harman Audio Curve, which basically is Harman, Sean Olive, and his crew tested a whole bunch of people to find out their preferred audio response, or the mixture of, treble and mids and bass that people like. And that is kind of what the Harman Curve is when I mention it. But they're really, a lot of people really, really love the way they sound.
I mean, some of these companies will have a companion app where you can, be like more bass or less bass.
Yeah.
I would assume for this price, it's like you get what you get.
It's kind of crazy, right? Well, the Moondrop and the Linsole stuff, those are wired earbuds, so there's no real, if you're controlling those, it's off of stuff you're tuning on your app. But yeah, there's a lot of there are some audio apps. There are definitely some audio manufacturers that have apps that allow you to tune things, and the kind of the usability or how good that tuning is depends a lot. The Sony's top of the line headphones, like were horrendous out of the box, or I will say mediocre and not to my taste out of the box, which way too much bass. But the onboard app, which is like a 5-level EQ, it's got like 5 bands of audio you can tune. By tweaking the audio on that, it is surprisingly neutral and really, really good. But yeah, for a lot of them, it really depends on the manufacturer, right? But you're for wired stuff, you're not really going to have an app, but for Bluetooth stuff, you will often have an app. The question is how good is it? I always prefer to have something that sounds the way I like it out of the box, rather than having to torture it into shape with an EQ. But there's a lot of really good audio products out there that get a lot better, especially wireless audio products that with tweaking get a lot better. Anchor's Soundcore brand, and I will, full disclosure, a buddy of mine does PR for Soundcore, so feel free to ignore this segment if you want to, but I have support here. They came out with like the Flare 2 waterproof Bluetooth speaker a long time ago. I fell in love with what it was for $50, which was shockingly loud with shockingly good audio. I mean, I'm not going to mistake it for my like audiophile speakers, but it was really fun. And this was when anything comparable was considerably, much more expensive. The Wonder Room 4 now sells for about $60 at most places. It's
were you swimming at the time?
No, I just didn't have to worry. If one of the kids left it in the backyard and it was raining, I wouldn't have to panic.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. I mean, that counts for a lot.
There's a certain point where just like not having to worry. Things that are hard to kill are especially desirable when you're a parent. But Soundcore's Space One and the Space A40 earbuds, those are like Wirecutter's best budget noise canceling headphones and earbuds. So it's not just me finding what Soundcore is doing. One of the most, I actually think Wirecutter's as good as anybody and probably better than most people reviewing audio, and they picked those. Are we out of time? Should we talk about the rest of this post show, or
run through them? Run through them. I think we got a couple more minutes.
Kali Audio, their LP6 studio desktop monitors. When desktop monitors are essentially powered speakers for audio professionals. I use a pair of these I paid for out of pocket on my desktop. It's about $400 for the pair, $300 if you shop used on Guitar Center or someplace like that. These are great because I can switch between my headphone amplifier and the speakers with the click of a button. They don't really need a subwoofer. Like I always say, they get better with a subwoofer because everything's better with a subwoofer. But
everything is better, but you don't need it all the time.
It's like chocolate.
Yeah.
Like chocolate. Just smear chocolate on your subwoofer for deeper audio. It's a trick.
Fun.
But if you are editing video or audio, or you just want speakers on your desktop, most affordable studio monitors are atrocious. And some studio monitors that are expensive are atrocious, and they should be embarrassed. Like I said, these are like 300 used, 400 new. I honestly think the next up, and that's for the pair, I think the next step up from these are Genelecs, and they run like $700 for one speaker. They do a consumer-focused version of these, so you don't need a separate DAC or like my headphone amp to power them, and they come with a remote. That's the Project Mammoth, aka the MM6, and those are about $400 a pair also.
Fantastic. Well, we will probably have a few more of these in the post show. So if you're a patron, stick around for that. But before we go here, let's check out the mailbag.
Let's do it. Josh M. wrote in, do you think with Apple's marketing blitz about Apple Intelligence, but with a slow rollout and the underwhelming overall feature set, they're painting themselves into a corner? And might it blow up in their face eventually because they overpromised and underdelivered?
Depends
I'm not
on what
sure
you
that
mean.
they overpromised. I think that they're cautiously rolling out things.
I think the overpromise comes from those commercials that were like, I can have AI tell me who that guy was that I can't remember his face.
Yeah. Right. Right.
But I think this is and trust me, I'm firmly inside the bubble when I say this, but I think this is inside the bubble thinking, which is, yes, Apple is going to have a lot of egg on their face from a lot of pundits and a lot of people who really follow Apple closely, but your general consumer, and I think people forget just how mainstream Apple iPhones are,
right,
don't even know this is there. They barely know that there is a thing called Apple Intelligence. They just realize that Siri glows around the edge now when they activate it, and the emails are summarized now. That's interesting. Yeah,
I do this show and Apple Vision
show. Yeah,
and at the same time, sometimes I'm like, oh, how does that work? Oh, that's how it works. It doesn't really affect my life either way.
And this is not to say that Josh isn't asking an entirely fair question, because I think in certain sectors, Josh is absolutely, the answer is yes. They have painted themselves into a corner and people will be pointing out that they fell short. I don't know whether that makes a big difference in the consumer marketplace or not. It will if everyone starts talking about how Samsungs or Pixels do this and iPhones don't. That's the thing I would look for to see if that could actually damage their market share. But most of it's kind of fun stuff, not essential stuff. Not that I don't love a Genmoji. Speaking of fun stuff that is essential, Len Peralta, not with us on the show today, but did illustrate today's show ahead of time. We gave him the topics, and he has a picture of someone in a mask and a Santa hat running away with all
Jason
the cheap
Voorhees.
audio. Yeah, it could be. It does seem to be about Patrick's segment, though, but it's the perfect representation of secret, surprise, masked audio gear, including Sonos on there.
It is because it's Friday the 13th.
It's Friday the 13th.
I see what you're doing.
Yes. Thank you, Len, for the Friday the 13th art and the Sonos gear and the Santa hat. You can get all of that if you're a patron of Len at patreon.com/Len at the DTNS Lovers tier. Or if you're like, I can't really commit right now. He sells these both digital and print versions at his store. It's lenperalta.com. lenperaltastore.com.
Well, Patrick Norton, we are always glad to have you, whether it's Friday the 13th, spooky day, or elsewhere. Where can we find the rest of what you do?
Well, let's just say bsky.app/profile/patricknorton.bsky.social.
It's that easy.
That's easy. Yeah.
Which
You can
is
just
like
look up Patrick
you got
Norton
it.
on Blue Sky and it'll
Excellent.
probably show up.
You can just, yeah,
Slash
Patrick
Norton.
Norton on Blue Sky. Yeah.
Yeah. Go for that.
Patrick, would you like a sticker of Roger Chang?
I'm waiting for the Silk Robe Special Edition.
Yeah, we don't have those yet. We do have
yeah.
Roger holding a mug that says, but
If-
it still works with a smoking microwave, though.
If I'm a decent human being and I want all of the stickers of Roger I can get, how do I get them, Tom?
Yeah, they're $4.99 each or $12.99 for all three and free shipping at dailytechnewsshow.com/store. Thanks to everybody who's ordered them. We've got a bunch of orders for them. You're keeping Taylor busy sending these out. So keep it coming. dailytechnewsshow.com/store.
They're the cutest. They're the cutest.
Patrons, stick around for the extended show. Like I said, Patrick's got a few more picks for you, and it's Friday. So Roger created some balance questions for us, like who wants AI to pick their job? We're going to do the great debates. Stick around for that.
You can catch our show live Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. That is 2100 UTC, and you can find out more at dailytechnewsshow.com/live. We'll be back on Monday talking about what the data sets say about political polarization with Andrea Jones-Rooy joining us. Have a great weekend.
This week's episodes of Daily Tech News Show were created by the following people: host, producer, and writer Tom Merritt, host, producer, and writer Sarah Lane, executive producer and booker Roger Chang, producer, writer, and co-host Rob Dunwood, video producer Joe Kuntz, producer at large Anthony Lemos, Spanish language host, writer, and producer Dan Campos, science correspondent Dr. Nikki Ackermans, social media producer and moderator Zoe Detterding, our mods Beatmaster W. Scottus1, BioCow, Captain Kipper, Steve Guadarrama, Paul Reese, Matthew J. Stevens, a.k.a. Gadget Virtuoso, and J.D. Galloway. Mod and video hosting by Dan Christensen. Music and art provided by Martin Bell, Dan Luters, Mustafa A., Acast, and Len Peralta. Live art performed by Len Peralta. Acast ad support from Tatiana Matias. Patreon support from Tom McNeil. Contributors on this week's show included Chris Christensen, Scott Johnson, Justin Robert Young, and Patrick Norton. Our guest this week was Nate Langston. And thanks to all the patrons who make the show possible.
This show is part of the Frog Pants Network. Get more at frogpants.com.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.